profit enables you to create impact, but also what I'm starting to see is this new paradigm where profit is actually a byproduct of the purpose. If you really believe in something and you're passionate about that thing, eventually it's going to succeed. This isn't just fluffy branding stuff, and I think that's why I love the small to medium-sized space too, because it is more personal. It's more genuinely purpose-led. They're not just values that we stick up on a wall in a big corporate beautiful building. These are truly values that are embedded in the business because the leader of the business exudes them because they're probably built around that person. And there's now a lot more data to prove that profit and purpose do go hand in hand.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ways to Wealth. Today I'm joined by Marijke. Marijke, why don't you give us the TLDR on who you are and what you do and what you work on?
Thanks for having me, Charlie.
No
It's
problem.
nice to be here. So I'm Marijke Timmers. I'm a brand and marketing strategist.
Yeah.
I am one of those rare creatures, I think, in my industry that actually ended up building a 25-year career in marketing after actually studying business and marketing. Most of my mates at uni actually didn't end up in marketing. And I started that career actually in investment banking in London. By the age of 28, I was head of brand and advertising for Barclays Capital, the investment banking arm of Barclays at the time. And, during the GFC, 2008 hit, Barclays bought Lehman Brothers North America, so I was really lucky to be involved in the rebrand of Lehman Brothers. Green to blue, cool. Lighting up Times Square, cyan blue overnight, pretty much. But also during that time, probably had my first existential crisis because I realised, the work that I was doing was maybe not as aligned, or the industry that I was working for was maybe not as aligned with my values as I would have liked. And I think, spending nearly a decade in London, having fun, spending all my 20s there, don't regret any of it. Yeah. But when I saw what was happening across the industry soon after I left, went to Asia, went travelling through Asia, cleansed my soul. Yeah. And
went to the east.
Yeah, and actually discovered a village, a displaced village on the outskirts of Phnom Penh, started a children's charity. It's 15 years in now. And then moved to Melbourne, went back to corporate life. So worked in institutional banking there, and then actually ended up heading up marketing, creating a brand from scratch for a payments startup that went on to sell for hundreds of millions of dollars. So some really cool projects. Yeah. And then moved home, and it was kind of time, 15 years after being abroad. It was time to kind of do my own thing, and I ended up consulting here. Naturally fell into that corporate space. Supporting, enterprise clients with marketing automation and customer experience design, and had my second existential crisis at 40 when I had my son on my own. And I think, you will know this as a parent. There's nothing quite like, becoming a parent to really start to rethink the contribution that you make in the world. And I realised too that actually at that time, the small to medium-sized business space were the ones that were leading, with values and purpose, and actually innovating more in that ethical and sustainable business space.
Right,
and
at the time especially.
Yeah, with a 6-month-old. I let go of all of those corporate contracts, and I started the Marketing Collective. And we're not an agency, we're a collective of marketing specialists, each business owners ourselves. Right. As you know, marketing is very broad, so I'm not, I'm a strategist, I'm not a social media expert, I'm not a copywriter. I had to build a collective around that. It's a partnership model,
Right.
which makes it a lot more affordable for small and medium-sized businesses.
Right, because they can pick and choose more and they can customise for their needs.
Exactly, and actually we're all about coaching small businesses. So
Yeah.
there are the done for you or done with you services if you need them. There's the collective of people that you can trust.
Yeah.
But we're actually mostly about enabling and empowering small businesses to either DIY it, if they're bootstrapping, DIY it well, or at least if they're going to outsource, to know what good looks like before they pay
Right.
hard-earned money on marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
It requires discernment, and discernment comes from actually having a strategy. And I think these days,
for sure, I agree with that.
particularly in that small business space, people are throwing tactics at you all the time, right?
Yep.
Try this thing, get this result.
Yep.
It doesn't work unless you actually have that discernment or you have a strategy underpinning those tactics.
Yeah, I think the more I go through business life, the more I think that, you first have to learn how to sell your thing first. Otherwise you'll never be able to actually help a marketer achieve what they need to in your business if you don't know.
Yeah.
Like there's kind of this, you're bringing expertise that you don't have in, right? Because there's a gap.
Yeah.
But actually, like, if you aren't prepared, potentially, whoever you bring in is going to have a pretty difficult time to execute on.
If you can't articulate what that thing is.
Potentially, yeah. Like, it's kind of, for us, like, we went on a rebrand when we were in our kind of startup phase. We were like, we had a name, and it kind of just was, oh, there's a cool domain, let's buy it. It's a rare domain, that's cool. Turns into the brand, and then you're in the market, or you're starting to be, taking on early adopters. You're like, I don't think it really speaks to who we are.
Right.
And then, but you persevere.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that process of doing the rebrand we did made me realize, and interestingly, we started off with an agency, and then they had some issues, but then we kind of, it was the same people that did it for us ultimately. But yeah, there was kind of some complications going on there, but they were doing great work for us, and they were helping us realize what we were doing and how we were doing it.
Yeah.
And it gave our team the capability or the time or the patience to really work out what we wanted our brand to be, which we didn't initially do other than more of a whim.
And that's what happens, right? We get, as small businesses as well, you've got to bring in revenue. So you want to get to the selling.
Yeah. True.
And that's why so many businesses at that stage end up rebranding, because that piece isn't done up front. And it's quite hard to do up front because, as you say, you're not always, you don't have all the data or the information to be able to give that, real justice. But what we help small businesses with is that piece, and I think, yes, it's being able to articulate what you do, but actually more importantly, from a brand perspective, it's being able to articulate, especially if you're a purpose-led and values-led entrepreneur, who you are and what matters to you, right? It's that,
true.
Why are you doing it? What are your values? And that then is the common thread through absolutely everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely something I'm becoming more interested in. The second business I built. The first business I built was B2B, relationships, manufacturing. It was real easy in terms of marketing, because you didn't need to do it ultimately, because your work was your marketing, and you had a few clients and that's all you needed. Yeah. And then I built a gaming brand called Uproar, which was, I think, at our peak, I think we were the 6th or the 8th most popular gaming platform,
awesome.
like website thing.
Yeah, awesome.
Website, like kind of tournament and reward platform. From New Zealand, we built it. And that had really good brand resonance in market. But we just fell into crazy growth. Like, I kind of just launched it, and it grew relatively quickly, just organically, with a WordPress MVP I built.
Nice.
And then we raised a bit of capital and built the real thing. And it grew really fast. I mean, I'd wake up with like 5,000 users a day, like new users a day, and it's like, whoa, that's so many users sometimes. Obviously it ebbs and flows, but we were doing a lot of users. Whereas with eccuity, it's a bit different. Like, the registrations are worth so much more. It's a different game you're playing, you know, knowing the game you're playing and knowing what it means to get through the different paths and stages of like the sales cycle, the brand awareness cycle, like it's actually quite a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got a bit lucky with the other one. It just kind of all worked real quick. And we got one thing I would say that's maybe I also overlooked was we did a nice little PR piece in the beginning. And we also did some almost like brand strategy piece. I think we maybe invested once we got funded, I think we invested about $15,000 US on that. Yeah. And that was with a global company that was very good in esports and gaming. So they were kind of a boutique customer experience brand kind of player. We already had the name. We already knew what we were doing. But then they were quite helpful. And we just right place at the right time with all the influencer marketing we did.
Yeah, and I think that brand piece is, you know, the strategy is about clarity, right? A lot of the time, people don't buy, not because they don't resonate with it or they don't, you know, the product's no good. It's actually just that they're not clear. Yeah. And that's what a really good brand strategy gives you, is absolute clarity for the right people. You obviously must have had a really good product too, or it wouldn't have taken off as quickly as
it was good. It was cool at the time. It was ahead of its time. It was good. Definitely a good concept. Yeah. But, you know, again, you know, the whole premise was you play video games and earn rewards. So it's a pretty good gig, right? It's not like, hey, I don't know, solve an annoying problem or something. It was kind of like free stuff. Yeah, or the risk that you're managing now for people. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's definitely a different game now. Yeah. But quite an interesting space, because gamers have a very high. They have a high standard for like what they believe they should get in terms of for every dollar they spend. So the expectations are high, which is cool. But I learned a lot from that space. For sure. Yeah, I bet. When you're working with brands, are you mainly focused on helping them with like more B2C kind of like as your... Well, my background is largely B2B. B2B, so, okay. Because all the investment banking stuff was more B2B? Institutional, yeah. So it was, so you're selling to businesses. Yeah, so most of my clients are service-based and, selling to businesses. You know, we do have some product-based businesses as well. The same rules on a brand strategy apply. You know, the coaching is the same, but the way that you go to market is obviously quite different. So the GTM side is way different, but actually the principles and the framework behind how to build a brand that resonates with humans, because ultimately it's the same thing, right? You're selling to humans, it's just the cycle's a little bit different. Exactly, yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. And like, I mean, kind of tell me a little bit more about the kind of investment banking space and like doing brand marketing in that space. And you mentioned that the industry wasn't really aligned to your values and what you wanted to do. Could you like double click on that a bit too? Yeah, so... I mean, phenomenal opportunities, right? You're working for a global investment bank, big budgets, amazing advertising agencies, incredible events and sponsorships. You know, I'm not going to crap all over those experiences at all. Fun. It was fun, and you know, in your 20s, even more so. But I think with the GFC. You know, just realising what had created that, and spending a lot of time with people who just talked about money, all the time. You know, all the time. That was that was the point at which I decided. Was it because it was transactional? Was it because there wasn't maybe too much humanity to the direction? It was just more, you know. It was greed.
It was more and faster, and also some of the things that I saw, the industry investing in were not necessarily aligned with my values either. And having spent time now in working in places like Cambodia, and seeing firsthand, the exploitation that happens in countries like that from big business. And I need to say I'm not talking about any particular businesses here or banks or whatever. It was just, for me, something, once you've seen it, you can't unsee. And it just didn't align with my values. And at the same time, I also, in my last year in London, sat next to the charities coordinator. So there were some amazing, a lot of giving back that was being done in the industry as well. And that was really the first time I had thought you could end up, you could build a career in alignment with what mattered to you. You could actually help people or the planet and also earn a living. And I think for a lot of startups or ethical entrepreneurs, people thinking about starting a business that's actually going to do some good in the world, historically there's been a lot of pushback on, well, it's one or the other. You either build a business that's purposeful and you feel good about it, or
you build a good business.
You make profit, right? And I don't think, and in my experience in the last 5 years running the Marketing Collective, it doesn't have to be an or. In my experience, purpose...
Could be because of.
Yeah, it could be. It's impact, right? Profit enables you to create impact, but also what I'm starting to see is this new paradigm where purpose or profit is actually a byproduct of the purpose.
It's like the consequence of.
Exactly. If you really believe in something and you're passionate about that thing, eventually it's going to succeed.
And it's the quality of profit, quality of revenue, quality of that customer engagement, ultimately. And it's not, this isn't just fluffy branding stuff, and I think that's why I love the small to medium-sized space too, because it is more personal. It's more genuinely purpose-led. They're not just values that we stick up on a wall in a big corporate beautiful building. These are truly values that are embedded in the business because the leader of the business exudes them because they're probably built around that person. Totally.
And there's now a lot more data to prove that actually, profit and purpose do go hand in hand. So I think when we were talking a couple of weeks ago, the B Lab, the B Corp non-profit in the UK had just released some new data, and it showed that in 2024, between 2024 and 2025, UK B Corps grew turnover by 20%. The same size businesses in the UK that were not B Corps only grew on average by 3%. And the same is true now these days, well, you would know, from an investment capital perspective, that same period in the UK, the UK B Corps received or were able to raise 18% more capital than non-B Corps. So, investment firms are looking at the ethics and the sustainability behind businesses. The next generations are expecting a whole lot more of our businesses and the systems that we've created. And in my work within institutional banking and investment banking, but also looking at grassroots stuff that we do in Cambodia. I would like to think that the future of business is purpose-led, because if it's not, we're going to keep, our business systems are going to keep perpetuating problems that we have in the world. And I run a charity, but I actually believe that if businesses did the right thing, we wouldn't need half the charities that we have in the world.
That's right. It's kind of an inefficient way to... well, it's not it's not necessarily an inefficient way, but we know that for every intermediary we put into a system, it's just one more barrier where in the chain where something can go wrong. Obviously, you would love to give as much as you can outsource.
Yeah.
But actually, it's just vehicles to do the work. So, we kind of do what we can.
Yeah.
But like you say, if every organisation enabled their team to have equity and skin in the game and helped curate them to make sure that they were building equity and it doesn't have to be in your own business, but just equity in life, then, you're not having to necessarily worry about, is the government going to have the resources for me when I retire? So I think for us, like you have to vote with your dollars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that say, well, I don't like banks, I don't want to use, I don't like banks, they profiteer from me, Well, are you voting with your dollars?
Yeah.
Because there are lots of non-banking alternatives that are actually giving better products than traditional banks, especially in New Zealand.
Yeah, and with the next generations, caring more about this stuff, or actually also more informed about the realities behind.
More aware.
I think, yes, there's an increasing purchasing power, but there's also increasing wealth for investment. So not just where are you spending your dollars, but where are you investing your dollars into which businesses? Because that's the start of it. Making sure that capital is actually in the hands of businesses that
are doing good stuff. Yeah, that's right. And it's all about incentive systems. Yeah. Really. But I think I've always been a fan. I love this story about your charity because I'm just a real believer in grassroots kind of community and activity.
Yeah.
I train jiu-jitsu most days. That's a big passion of mine. I did esports. I was playing professionally at esports when it was very young and nascent in Europe, and obviously then here. Played pub, pool, club poker. I think grassroots is really interesting space to be. Yeah. And it's truth, right? Because it's not about a capital incentive. It's about the activity or whatever the passion is, or the change you want to see in the world, or the learning that you want to give is in its truest form in those grassroots, decentralized environments.
Exactly, and I think there's a real opportunity for small and medium-sized businesses to partner with those sorts of organisations. Right? Yeah,
that's true.
So, this year is the first year, actually, that I've managed to align the business and the charity.
Right.
I'm building out, resources. Most of them will be free, just because I care about this stuff, to help businesses connect with causes, communities, charities. Cool. And I know that a lot of people are sceptical about charities as well. So how do you even evaluate, these charities so that that the ones that you are supporting are actually doing as much as they can in the area that they work in, and that they're aligned with your brand and your brand values. Yeah,
I just interviewed a guy that's doing kind of something interesting in the Web3 space, trying to basically get capital to grassroots foundations and different initiatives as quickly and directly and decentralized as possible, so that a government, like a council, could go use this product to actually distribute their budget directly to grassroots organizations, and then on the blockchain you're actually seeing, well, where did the capital go? Yeah. And we just as a part of our ecosystem, we're working on an estate planning, a probate product. Okay. On the blockchain. So think that, a lot of our clients actually go to us, hey, what if I get hit by a bus? I've got all these logins to all these things and all these assets, different places, maybe some private investments, etc. And, our kind of net worth of our clients are anywhere from $250,000 to, 70 million.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like a wide range.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people in this space have complex problems, you know, nuanced decisions they got to make around strategy and purpose and how do they want to actually represent their capital or represent their asset base. And they're actually often underserved.
Yeah.
And not knowing who to trust, et cetera, et cetera. But I think there's a mistrust probably around charities because of, like, obviously growing skepticism in institutions and governments.
Yes.
And there's like a unconscious bias that is almost associated with charity and government, most likely. And it's really interesting around incentive structures as organizations grow, right? There's no organism that doesn't want to naturally grow. And sometimes that organism growing might actually work against its initial purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I.e. kind of large government now.
Yeah.
Because it's created a overwhelming mimetic kind of cycle where people actually now just don't trust centralization. Yeah. And that centralized brand, where you kind of came from, because it was the heyday of centralized brand, right, when you were in London, actually. GFC, pre-GFC, post-GFC kind of still had that hierarchy of, like, the Nikes and the big box brands, and now that's being obviously disrupted before our eyes. Yeah. And that, yeah.
I mean, I think with charities too, there's this expectation that if you're a charity, you shouldn't pay your staff, you know, huge salaries either. And there is that you know, that trade-off. I mean, actually, I think charities need really good talent. That talent deserves to be paid for what they do. And if that means that the impact is far greater, then that's a better outcome for everyone, you know. But I think we quite often look at profit and non-profit as black and white, you know, and actually if the two came closer together and worked together, and we treated non-profits in the same way that, you know, that we treat profits, that hopefully we wouldn't have half the problems we have in the world if they were, you know, actually also managed and held accountable for that impact and those outcomes. You know, having worked grassroots, you see a lot of the bigger charities, and that's why I started my own charity, because the village that I was working in had a load of larger charities working there. Right. But they were ineffective. Yeah. You know, they weren't deep enough. It was all quite surface level, and there was a lot of cost. You know, I'm riding out to this village on the back of a motorbike, you know, and there's other charities driving out there in their big Range Rovers. You know, it's and you want to keep your staff safe and comfortable and all of that stuff too, but there is quite often a perception, and I have seen a reality of it too, where there's a lot of waste in those spaces. Yeah. Yeah, it kind of, it always comes back to how do you keep it how do you delete stuff, how do you keep things simple? This podcast has had a lot of things deleted. You should actually have a picture of, like, the first setup we had and how many components they were versus today. And less components is often less problems, less headaches. Yeah, I mean, why did you decide to do that? I mean, is it because you happened to go there and physically see what was going on, and then, like, you left first, or you stayed there and created the charity while you were, like, what was the whole strategy at that point in time? Oh, there was no strategy. You were just, like, winging it. There was no strategy. I had no intention of setting up a charity. I honestly went out to have that experience and to help people. And actually I went through a volunteer agency so that, you know, as a woman travelling on my own, I wanted to make sure that there were checks and balances, and I'd never been to Cambodia. Yeah. I have no idea why I chose Cambodia. It just it was calling. Right. And actually for a lot of my clients, that's how things start. You know, there's some kind of trigger. There's often an existential crisis. Yeah. And something happens, and they decide, now, you know, now is the time, I've got to move towards whatever this thing is. I actually rejected all of the organisations that volunteer agency set me up with. They were not set up to genuinely help the organisation. They were set up for gap year students to have an experience, and half the time those organisations were babysitting the volunteers, not the other way around. I wasn't there for that. You know, I went to Cambodia when I was 30.
Yeah.
You know, it was a very different, meaningful experience for me, and I was looking for something longer term, but I thought that I would partner with a charity that was working somewhere. Right. I didn't expect to create my own, and actually, very serendipitously, my host brother, who I was living with at the time, was a lawyer for the United Nations. Right. And he saw me coming back for the first week, having been out to these places and not feeling it. And he said, I'm fighting for land rights for a community just on the outskirts of Phnom Penh. Do you want to come and have a look on the weekend? And I turned up at that village, and it was incredible. The kids were amazing. And I just fell in love with the people there, you know, the history of, you know, that those people have endured. And we're not talking hundreds of years, it's actually in my lifetime. And yet the resilience and the kindness and the community feel. These people in 2006 were forcibly removed from their land in Phnom Penh and dumped on this site with nothing. Right. And I was out there in 2009. They had built, you know, a slum. They had a real community feel. I remember one day, one of the little girls in this orphanage, and we call it an orphanage, they're really not orphans. Cambodia has created an industry of orphanages on the back of, you know, the late 70s and the Pol Pot regime. But 30, 40 years later, these are not orphans anymore. It's just these organisations get aid, and so it's a way of living, and parents often can't afford to feed or educate their children, so they think they'll have a better life.
Do they give them up though? They fully give them up?
Yeah. And unfortunately for a lot of them, and this was the case with this one, they don't have a better life, you know. Yeah. They aren't given the education that they're promised. There's a lot of abuse and corruption, and in the 15 years that I've been working out there, the Cambodian government have really cut back on orphanages and residential care centres. So having seen all of that, I was just a person in that place who could do something about it, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I couldn't leave and say thanks for the experience, have a nice life, you know. Yeah. Because chances were these kids, unless somebody stepped in and did something, they weren't going to have that experience. Yeah. They were going to end up another generation that missed out, you know. And I had no idea what it looked like, but I made a commitment when I left. Yeah. And it's actually taken on a life of its own. It's much bigger than I ever imagined it would be. Yeah. We moved those kids into a safe home in Phnom Penh. That was the first thing, and then we reintegrated them. I thought it would take a year or two, maybe. It took 8 to actually find these, you know, the families and make sure that the families were financially secure, were emotionally secure, you know, that it was safe to take these children back. And so, yeah, we ran a residential centre for about 8 years before we were able to reintegrate those children back into their families. We're still in touch with them. I mean, these are, you know, kids I have a personal relationship with. And along the way, I met a couple of amazing women who have become my partners. And the three of us decided once we shut that down that actually for the amount of money that we were raising and supporting these 14 kids in full-time care, we could help over 200 in the village. And so we went back to the village, and a lot of what we do now is community-led because, to keep kids in school in places like Cambodia, the whole community needs to be lifted. It's not just a matter, and naively, when I started the charity, I thought it would just be, marketing, fundraising. We just need money, right? We just need money to make sure that they can get, stay in school. Books, bags, uniforms, but kids don't go to school or stay in school for so many social, not just economic reasons. And so we now have a team out there. We do early literacy, kindergarten, up to grade 3, supporting. We have a really good partnership with the local primary school. We've built 10 new classrooms through lobbying the government. And we, this year, opened our own 3-storey community centre. And as I said earlier, working with the charity and the business together, I'm taking a couple of my clients out in January.
Oh, yeah.
And we're putting in a playground at the local primary school and a garden on the roof terrace of our community centre.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we have youth groups and parenting groups and social workers that work with the whole community.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And it only took 15 years.
Well, interestingly, I'd love to claim, I'd love to take credit for the difference that is quite visible now versus 15 years ago. But the reality is too that Phnom Penh have the city has grown,
transformed.
It's incredible, and so the urban sprawl has come to meet them now, and just by nature of not being isolated from everything, that has really helped that community as well.
It's kind of it's the velocity of, I guess, it's kind of similar to like the velocity in money now. Like how quickly money can move from one place to another. Yeah. So it's the same with information, I guess.
Yes.
And I guess like when you look at kind of charity or whatever you're doing, it's we think a lot about money in business, right? Unit economics, how much it costs you, but really, like if you look at it a bit more deeply, you're looking at how do you get some unit of outcome out of whatever you're doing.
Exactly.
And that outcome may not be obvious.
Yeah.
But also how you get to the outcome or that output can be done in many different ways. Yeah. I guess that's kind of, but also takes a varied amount of time as well, right? Like, and that's why kind of 15 years is like, it's a mixture of, well, the only reason it's possible is because you lasted 15 years making little bits of progress every year, right? Your trip on January is just another building block to that 15 years, right? That, I'm going to go and do another thing. And that's what business is about. And that's what building a brand is about.
So those incremental steps, So
it's little incremental, like, I'm going to just turn up again one more time and see how we go. And that's kind of the same, that's the story with your charity. Yeah,
and look, there's been moments when, we don't have enough money in the bank account, and I'm thinking, all of these people, like, the responsibility. And this is why profit is absolutely a byproduct of purpose, because every single time something happens, and there it is.
Yeah.
There's an amazing organisation actually called B1G1.
Okay.
Buy one, give one.
Okay.
They're based in Singapore, but they're global. And they've done all of the work on, assessing charities. And they're really good at quantifying and monetising the impact.
Right.
So, and it is these little things. So, you could, for example, for every download of your podcast, attach that to some form of impact through their charities. And you can plug it in to your business, add it to a page on your website, and it's all, visualized, the impact that you have. So it's not like, I've given this amount of money. It's I've provided water to this number of families. I've educated this number of children.
Yeah, we've definitely are. At an organisation level, Medition is our holding company, but it's thought about, like how do you do that in practice? Individually as an organisation, like, we have a lot of clients that are, privileged in where they're sitting in society and their kind of net worth, etc.
Yeah.
Are we able to help teach someone financial literacy for every one of our private members, for example?
Yeah. And that's that connection to what matters to you and what makes sense for your brand, right? And when you can do that and do that well, and I do have, clients who find talking about that icky. I'm doing this thing, but I don't want to tell anyone. And you have to. I get that it can feel a bit icky. It comes back to your intention.
Yeah.
You should actually be sharing those stories because the hero is not you. The hero is the charity and the person that you've helped.
Yeah.
And as long as you can position it where the hero is the charity, not you.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound, disingenuous.
For sure. Yeah. Yes. How do you speak about these things? How do you do them? Do you say them? Do you do them?
Yeah.
Do you live them? That's kind of the thing, right?
Yeah.
Living it. And if it's something closer to your passion and your purpose, it's just easier to do it rather than be like, oh, well, I care about, X issue in the world, but maybe I'm not connected to it. Maybe I've not felt it. I think you kind of, in a sense, you probably have to have felt it in some way. Like you felt the pain and you saw the pain, you were there, physically there, you were connected physically to that location and those people at that time, which gave that resonance to then go and pursue. It's being that person in that place and realising if it's not me, it's not going to happen. For sure. I remember distinctly during that 2008 bubble, when my mum was confused because her floating, all the teaser rates had ended and she was getting slammed.
Yeah.
And she should have never been able to buy a home.
Right.
But she was able to because they were doing fake earnings basically on everyone's documents.
Yeah.
And because she worked at an estate agency.
Right.
That gave her that basically got her the mortgage.
Yeah.
And then, you go from interest only, small teaser rate to all of a sudden, it's very different. And she didn't understand how interest worked.
Right.
And that was the problem. And a lot of people actually don't know and how a small change or a seemingly small change in interest rates can affect your cost.
Big numbers, right?
Really big. So that was a financial literacy error.
Yeah.
And misunderstanding. And that's definitely kind of given me a chip on my shoulder around, show me the incentives, please, because I want to know what's really going on.
Yeah.
But also just basic fundamentals of financial literacy, how does interest rates work?
Yeah.
What happens if they move? How much do they need to move for me not to be in a very good spot?
Yeah.
What's the right debt to equity to have? What's all this? What are all these things? So I think, it's
and then the purpose behind that too, what are you invested in? Do you even know?
Yeah.
Do you know what your KiwiSaver's made up of?
Yes. Yeah, and a lot of people in New Zealand as well are still scarred and have that trauma from the 80s.
Yeah.
Right? And those older people have passed that on to some younger people, and there's this skepticism around investing.
Yeah.
And it's well, just by the way, those funds own exactly the same things. It's what is in your KiwiSaver?
Yeah.
Well, what is in your KiwiSaver is a bunch of companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's no, from a first principles perspective, if you go and buy, 50, 60 companies, that looks very similar to an index or a fund.
Yeah, exactly.
But you might just decide that actually you want to delegate your retirement or your savings to an organization that aligns with your values and is allocating capital in a way that you'd like to see in the world.
Yeah.
But from a first principles perspective, it's just you just own productive assets.
Exactly.
Well, in most cases, I guess, if you're in like a bond fund, it's a bit different, or like a fixed income thing or a cash thing, a little bit different. But ultimately, it's not too dissimilar. What those companies are doing inside a KiwiSaver is not too different to your business that you're running as a small to medium enterprise. I think we think about all these things as different things, but Google is a business, your business is a business, Eccuity is a business. And I think when people get into investing from a DIY perspective, it's often associated more with speculating.
Yeah.
And I'm buying this thing that someone else is going to give me more for in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to knowing the race you're running.
Yeah.
Which again with the brand and okay, if I'm an investment bank and I'm selling to institutions, what does that look like? And how do I express that? It's going to be very different to someone that's making a pop-up ice cream place.
Exactly. And actually, when I got out of the banking space and into the payment startup, so much fun in a startup, by the way, it was really because at that institutional level, to be perfectly honest with you, it's not about marketing. Right? It's a relationship business, again, it's B2B. But also, these big institutions are spreading their risk. They're dealing with all of the banks.
Right.
So it's not you're not gaining competitive advantage through amazing marketing.
No.
I actually think amazing marketing happens at the lower end of town. I mean, the most innovative marketers are small to medium-sized businesses. Having worked in that corporate space, you have smaller budgets.
Yeah.
You've got to be more creative. You're actually closer to your customers, so you understand them better. The coolest stuff is happening down here.
Well, you have, because you're basically trying to find an arbitrage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you're an SME and you're trying to compete, I mean, take us versus a well-funded financial institution that isn't predominantly bootstrapped.
Yeah.
Different approach.
Yeah.
It was the same. It was the gaming business. It was very clear that we were finding an arbitrage ahead of everyone else for every dollar we were spending.
Right.
Because everyone in the top 20 of that space, and it was a highly funded space at that time, had raised 15 to 20 times more than us minimum.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But we were kind of in the top 10. So when you're a small to medium enterprise, you're just trying to find these really productivity efficiencies or arbitrages where you're able to just get a little bit more out of it, and you have to be more creative. Because if it was an obvious trade, that arbitrage wouldn't exist in the market, basically. Yeah. So that's cool. So just to land, I think a lot of people feel like they want to do good. Yeah. They feel like they want to be more purpose-led. But, it's one of those things where you often will put it to the back of the pile because you're like, oh, well, I've got all these other competing interests and it's very important. And I've got all these things and I'm very important and I need more headspace or I need more things for me to be in a space where I can give back. Yeah.
Or one day I'll do that when I've, when
I'm ready, when I'm a grown up.
Yeah. Yeah. Or financially when I've got this number.
For sure.
Right.
So, but I'm sure there's obvious ways to be proactive and give back.
I think the first thing is to get absolute clarity on what that thing is. What is it that's calling you? Yeah. What is that purpose? And it sounds really big, and it doesn't have to be that big. It's generally linked to things that really annoy you. What really gets you aggravated, and when you see something that just doesn't look right. those are the moments that are tied to your purpose. It's winding you up for a reason. So I think it's about, first of all, getting absolute clarity on what that thing is.
Yeah.
And naturally, a lot of people starting businesses are doing that because this thing over here is not working, or there's a gap in the market, and it's because of this. It is tied to their purpose. Explore that, The exploration doesn't come from being really busy and doing all of the things. It actually comes, those inspirations come on holiday. We're about, we're about to head into Christmas and New Year.
It's such a great time to reflect and
absolutely
and plan and dream.
Yeah, well, they come in the shower.
Yeah, sure.
They don't come when you're in the madness and the chaos. And the same for building a really, a brand of substance that doesn't come from speed and AI and,
sure.
all of this pace. It actually comes from initially slowing down. And then it gives you the platform to really propel and scale.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.